Hello, and thanks everybody for having us. We're really excited to be at the conference with you. My name is Joelle Faulkner from Area 1 Farms, and we'll be presenting, so myself and Lars Rogers, who works with me, will be presenting on farm expansion without breaking the bank. So we'll give you a bit of background on what Area 1 Farms does, why we do it, how we came to be, and what that means for you and your farm and your expansion options. I started Area 1 in 2012. I'm from a multi-generational dairy farm in London, Ontario. And I started it because I was seeing investors buy land and rent it out. And I didn't think the model worked that well. They often overpaid for land or didn't buy really high quality land. And I thought, farmers really didn't get ahead enough by renting land. It would be better for everybody, better for the investor and better for the farmer if the farmer was an owner and they didn't have to charge lots of rent. They could actually take crop risk together. And over time, everybody would do better by keeping it more stable for the farmer. We have since partnered, so at Area 1, I've gotten investors that agree to my really unusual terms, which is to partner with farmers. And we've bought and operate over 140,000 acres across Canada. Of those 140,000 acres, we've brought back already about 25,000 acres into crop production in Northern Ontario, Manitoba, and Alberta. And that land cleanup work, or bringing land back into production, is something that we're very interested and very proud of, and has become a big part of our business. We've earned a reputation amongst our partners for being a really good partner, and are supported by local communities because we support local communities. So once we work with farmers, we don't actually change things about where you're buying from or who you're buying from. We don't have head office purchasing, but we do try to support you in making the best decisions that you can. And that has worked out well for the partners and the communities that we're in. I'm going to give you some detail on our model. So we partner with farmers as they expand, meaning we are actually not looking for farmers who are retiring or wanting to sell. We are only looking for farmers who are wanting to grow. And rather than buy from those farmers, we're buying with those farmers. So you would have something that you want to buy, maybe a landlord that wants to sell to you, maybe a neighbor, maybe a relative, or maybe kind of an interesting opportunity otherwise. And you come to us and say, okay, here's what I want to buy. And if you can fund it all with debt, you don't end up coming to us. So if you're really comfortable adding and expanding entirely through debt, then that's a great place for you, and you don't need us. But let's say you're not growing by a quarter or a half section. Let's say you're growing by doubling or tripling the size of your farm because your kids are interested. You'll say, okay, here's what I own, here's how we want to expand, here's the opportunities for purchase. And whatever things you own, you actually put in, and you own that much proportional ownership across the whole farm. And you get all the income and all the appreciation on the part that you own. In addition, we've put in money now to buy those extra things. And so you'll, in addition to what you earn on your own investment, you earn part, usually 10 to 15% on the income and appreciation of what we own. Which is a unique thing because it's not like a landlord where, you know, the land goes up, well, that's all theirs. Now as the land is going up, that is partially ours and partially yours. And we don't have a rent built in. So if you always had equity paid for land, you'd always make money. That's kind of the position we'd like to be in. And so we operate thinking, you know, every year we'd like to make some money with you, but there's no fixed rent. It's not like you make certain amounts after that. It's really shared risk operating together as partners. We have two ways that we've worked with partners. Usually, especially at the beginning, you don't want to put your whole farm into something that you don't know yet. And likewise, we actually like a year of working together before we decide to kind of work in a really big way. So the easiest is to start with a piece of land that we buy together and we operate it as a crop share. It's usually really simple. It's an easy addition to an existing farm. It's usually not that big a piece. And then we have a whole year of working together and getting to know each other and making sure that we're a partner that you really like working with and you're a partner that we really like working with. The second one, which is usually after that, is a full farm partnership. And that's when we'll start thinking about putting the land, the infrastructure, the machinery as a single farm and operating as a single farm. And what we focus on a lot, so about a third of what we do, is land cleanup work or other added value. And so we'll invest in the cleanup, bulldozers and excavators, and actually getting land into production, and do added value projects wherever that makes sense. And kind of over time, we're looking for the opportunity to grow this beyond just crop. So we're starting into beef production, and we're doing already the land cleanup work. We're doing a lot of conversion from either logged property into farmable or from overgrown pasture into either pasture or farmable. But we think over time that'll get even more. Maybe there's a seed business that you want to expand. Maybe there's some sort of processing that you want to do. There's a lot of different things, and what we know about farming is it's a game of picking up pennies. And if you see some pennies that you think are interesting to add on to your business, we're happy to hear about them and would like to support that, because we think over time, a little more integration is probably where we need to get to. I'm going to hand it over to Lars Rogers. So I'm joining from Ontario. Lars is actually joining from Alberta. I'll hand it over to Lars to explain the rest of both what we do and how we do it.
Thanks, Joelle. Pleasure to join you all today, and look forward to talking to you a bit more about some of the items that Joelle touched on in her introduction. So a bit about our ideal partners. Our ideal partners should be strong producers. We found that partnerships with somebody who is really good at production works even in expensive areas like irrigated areas in southern Alberta or in central Alberta where I am now. When we say strong producer, we're not just referring, of course, to being able to grow the best crop, but we're also talking about being able to do it economically. So at the end of the day, those people with the best net margin after expenses are the ones that are going to be able to expand and or buy us out in the future. So strong producers are critical to our future success and the farm's future success. As Joelle alluded to, we also look at the value-added opportunities. So we certainly look at, is there a way in the area that the partner wants to work that we can get land improvement done, either by converting wooded or pasture land to productive cropland, or making pasture land more productive in terms of grazing or forage for the cattle producers. We also look at irrigation where water is available and it makes sense. And certainly, again, as Joelle mentioned, we do look at people who have a passion and a history of success in value added, whether it's something like the seed producer, or it's somebody that's found a way to process their crop on the farm and generate extra value for their operation that way. Or it may be that they've found a way to be more environmentally friendly, to get a premium production, premium product through organic or regenerative processes. So any way that they can add value. And of course, we're looking for partners that have opportunities for growth. It may be that they need to grow, as Joelle mentioned, so that additional family can join the successful family farm. Or it may be that they're renting a great deal of their acreage and their landlords are growing older or looking to sell out, and they want to give themselves a bit more security in the future by buying out those landlords and ultimately buying us out in at the end of the term in 10 or 15 years. They may have a lot of neighbors retiring, and they've got an opportunity to expand and be more efficient. As we all know, you can only cover so many acres with a line of equipment, so you want to make sure you have the right number of acres for the equipment you have. And we look for partners who have land improvement opportunities available to them in a reasonable vicinity of their farm operation. Land improvement, we talked a bit about that, just want to spend a little bit more time. That piece is important. It's certainly a value add for the farmer and for ourselves. Historically, we've cleaned up about 6,000 acres a year where it's been pasture or woodland and bringing it into crop production. It's a way that the partners can be really successful in building equity, and it can help them keep their skilled labor force busy 12 months of the year so that you don't have that issue of possibly losing that best hired hand you ever had because they found a different opportunity in the winter. It's been a little easier in Alberta lately with the oil patch being quieter, but things are picking up. So it's always good to keep your people working year round. Certainly in some areas, there's opportunity for irrigation. And as everybody in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta saw this year, having water surety is certainly a big value benefit in a hot, dry year. So certainly some opportunities there that we want to continue to explore. The provincial governments are investing a lot of money in building out the infrastructure. So we think there'll be some real opportunities for folks to convert acres in the coming years. And it's a very expensive thing to do. Not everybody's balance sheet can absorb the extra cost of developing the acreage. And certainly tile drainage is something we look at as well in areas where it makes sense and you've got good ability to drain successfully and meet all the environmental requirements and be environmentally friendly while improving the productivity of your land. So again, an area, great value, and it does add some real equity rapidly for the farm partner as they're completing that work. How does the partnership work in terms of a timeline? Our due diligence does usually take about 1 to 3 months. That includes going through the diligence, helping the farmer understand what is required to be a good partner and what we do to be a good partner. So at the end of the day, it does require a slightly different mindset to develop a really good partnership. We will complete a customized partnership agreement so that everybody understands what's going on and how the partnership works. We will set up a new farm corporation, usually with a name that means something to our farm partner, so that when people look at that name on the local RM map or county map, they know what farm it's associated with. And we will work with the farmer to use modern technology to help with the farm tracking of operations and expenses to make sure that everything is efficient. Then for years 1 to 10, we operated as a joint venture. The farmer is the operating partner or the general manager for the operation. They do work with us each year to establish a budget and some control points, but at the end of the day, they're the ones that decide what type of seed is being used and what type of fertilizer, et cetera. So they're making the decisions. We do encourage our partners to maintain a strong relationship with other local partners, like a good agronomist if they don't have one already, and a good marketing partner. And we found historically with a lot of our partnerships that as we go along, the farmer keeps finding additional land that they want to sell or want to buy. So our partnerships tend to grow as the partnership develops. We haven't seen too many people that just buy in year one and never buy again. Year 10, there's a discussion of, do we want to continue on as joint ventures? We can add in 5-year terms, or if they want to buy out Area 1 or a portion of it, our farm partners can buy 0 to 50% of our partnership or 100%. And then we work out an agreement on the price. The other option that can happen, I don't know that we've seen it happen too often, but both parties can agree that it's time to sell the land and move on to something else. So usually the farmer will want to buy out a portion or all of us if they've been successful in the intervening years. And the nice part, being a retired banker, I can tell you it's much easier to get financing if you can show 10 years of successful operation of that land and show how you generate above average margins on it, thanks to the fact partially that you don't have a huge debt load that you have to carry. You're able to really continue to invest back and improve your operations. So we really want to thank you for your time today. Hopefully you've enjoyed the presentation from Joelle and I, and we look forward to taking any questions you might have about building a partnership with an equity investor like Area 1 Farms. You know, one thing I get asked on just about every farm visit is, you know, how does the buyout process work? And certainly a lot of farmers are really interested in buying us out, at least a portion at the end of 10 years. By the way, if anybody does have any questions, please do feel free to interrupt me. I'm just trying to...
Hi, Lars. It's Heather Oakley with Farm Management Canada. We have a couple questions in the kind of comment area, and I can read them out to you if that would be helpful.
Yeah, it would, since I haven't figured out how to find it when I went into Zoom.
No problem. So we have a question from Colleen Uni from PI, and she says, what type of profile do you require your investors have? Oh, do your equity investors have?
What type of, okay, I'm not sure quite how we would answer that. Generally speaking, our investors, Joelle has done a good job of getting investors that really are just interested in supporting farming and investing in farmland. And then they leave it to us to kind of select our farm partners. For the farm partners, what we're really looking for is somebody who is a good communicator, works with us well, is a strong producer, and is comfortable with the reporting and dealing with what is a partnership where you do have somebody you can bounce things off of and take advantage of that network that we provide. Not sure if that got to what Colleen was looking for. But...
Yeah, it sounds like it does. And then we have another question from Joel Hughes, and it was asking, what has the uptake been with your program or programs like yours compared to Bonifield type programs?
There's not a ton of programs like ours. Ours is fairly unique in that we do find a farm partner first, and they really work with us to drive the purchase decision and purchase discussion for seeking the land. Bonifield is more to go out and find the land and then find a renter or rent it back to the person that sold to them. Because we're planning to exit by selling to our farm partner in 10 to 15 years, we work with the farm partner to try and buy right so we can sell right. Bonnyfield or Manulife or CPP typically are more buying for long-term ownership, getting a return on investment from the rent, and not really looking at selling to the farm partner, and tend to pay a little bit higher rate, in some cases increasing the market value of land in an area by bidding it up. They're both good solutions. Ours is just a little different in that we share risk with our farm partner. We share expense with the farm partner, and the farm partner is integral to the decisions on what land to buy and how to farm it. So great question, Joel. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Lars. I guess too, kind of along that lines, was a question on how many years typically does it take to get to the farmer having ownership of the farm?
Yeah, that's a great question. There, it would depend on, what the balance of their operation was like. Usually at the end of year 10, the farm partner can afford to buy some of the land from the partnership. But again, it depends on the economics, how good a farmer they are, what kind of net margin can they generate. In most cases, and how well they can save and how much land they keep finding. In many cases, it will take them 10 to 20 years to buy us out completely, if that's still their objective at the end of that time period. That one is a bit hypothetical at this stage. We've only been around since 2012, so we haven't seen that many people that have been able to buy us out completely.
What kind of industry do these farmers sector are these farmers from that have bought out completely?
Well, we haven't had anybody that's bought out completely as yet. Farmers that have bought us out usually have had or are working to buy us out right now, because we're just hitting year 10 this coming year in most cases. The ones that seem to be best positioned to buy us out have had a fair bit of land improvement opportunity, so they've been able to buy well, and then they've been able to improve the value of the land by clearing it and get more production out of it. And most of our partners have been grain farmers so far that have made good progress in buying us out. And to be honest, they've been probably better than average at producing a net margin. So they have figured out how to either get superior yields, or they figured out how to reduce their input costs without mining the soil, because they do need to be farming on a sustainable manner. So those would be generally where we've had success. We have worked in some cases with farms that are mixed, where they do have a cow-calf operation. That can help as well, depending again on the size and scale of the farm operation. The one thing we do see really is that you've got to hit what is the right scale for your area and your farm equipment. You don't want to have underutilized farm equipment. At the same time, you don't want to be working yourself to the bone by running 24 hours a day all year round.
For sure, yes. And to go off that too, we have a question from Neil Galbraith. He was asking if the farm partners have to put all the farmland into the joint venture, or just the new land that is co-bought.
Okay. That would depend on the circumstances. That's a great question, Neil. We do run into it all the time. We do have partners where they've got a good, well-established existing farm operation that they want to maintain as it is. In that case, we do look at partnerships on just the new land. And, that tends to be especially the starting point, where we'll maybe start with a half section with a partner, and we just go into the partnership on that net new land. In other cases, if they have some significant financial strain in their existing operation, we may help them with the new land and restructuring their finances to reduce the financial strain, make sure there's enough working capital, make sure the debt is reduced to a manageable level, and partner on the whole farm operation. Both models have their place, and it really depends on individual circumstance, because we do need to make sure if we're partnering, say with a new partner, we've got to make sure their existing farm operation is stable and viable as well. But great questions.
Right. Yes, you're really working with the farmer. And if they need that currently owned farmed land, you can work at restructuring that. Otherwise, you can just focus on new land to help grow their business.
Yeah. And, we spend a lot of time going through things in the due diligence stage to talk to them about what do they really need to be, efficient and to be successful going forward.
Right. Edith Kennedy was wondering if this opportunity is available to farms across the country.
There are some limitations. We are looking at opportunities all across Canada. Most of our partners at this time are in Alberta and in Manitoba and Ontario. We have explored Saskatchewan some, but there are some challenges with Farmland Security Board and ownership rules in Saskatchewan. So we're happy to take inquiries from Saskatchewan, but there are some limitations on how we can move forward there. We are interested in looking at opportunities in the Maritimes, but have not proceeded with any yet. And we are looking at some opportunities in BC, primarily in the Peace Country, but certainly could be interested in opportunities elsewhere. So we are active Canada-wide.
Yes, so you would encourage anyone to reach out to you to see what their opportunities are.
Yeah, it's always best to contact us and see if their current circumstance does fit. We field inquiries everywhere. Not all of them are a fit, but in all cases, we can usually find some suggestions to make to help a person know where to explore if it's not a fit. And you never know what's going to be a fit until you chat.
For sure. And then we have a question, another one here from Duncan Robinson. Just before I read his question, though, I will encourage anyone who has questions to feel free to put them in the chat and we'll get to them as soon as we can. So Duncan's question was, why do you think there aren't other programs like yours out there?
That is a great question, Duncan. I think it's two parts. It's much more interesting to try and run a farmland investment opportunity this way, and you have to have a passion for it. And I think Joelle, with her background growing up on a farm, brought that passion to it. The other thing is, it is certainly a bit more challenging to work on a partnership environment than just to pay a cash rent. Even if the cash rent is high, you kind of know what your expense are, you know what your risks are, and you're in control of your own destiny. Working in a partnership with us, you're still largely in control of your own destiny, but you do have a partner, and at least on an annual basis, we do want to set a farm budget and make sure that it makes sense and have some opportunity for feedback input to the farm partner on the operation of that segment of the farm. So I think it's a great opportunity because you do have shared risk. And if you get a poor drought year like this year, you're not scrambling to figure out how to reschedule your bank payments or make your bank payments. For anybody that was in one of the areas that was impacted by drought, we had a farm partner that was certainly in a drought-stricken area and had some very low yields, and we were able to support them through that. And we're even turning around and looking at opportunity to buy some further land because, hey, farmers are always optimistic. There's always next year, right? And it'll be a better year. And I truly believe that. I grew up on a farm that was homesteaded back in 1905. So there's always next year.
Yeah, we're looking forward to 2022. We've got another question from Colleen, and she was wondering what kind of reporting do you require from the farm partners?
Okay. Great question, Colleen. And that varies between farm partnerships as well. We're still working on that, but part of it depends on what technology the client already has in place in their equipment. Some farms already have great reporting schedules and setups on their equipment and in their accounting. Where we don't have a reporting setup on a crop farm, we're usually looking at using something like Farm at Hand to track the inputs on the partnered land. We are looking at grain cart monitoring for monitoring harvest weights. Most of the time we try and figure out what the client already has. You know, if they're using the John Deere system and they have everything already set up, we can work with that. If they have Trimble or any of the other major ones, what we're looking for is really confirmation and tracking of the finances, so income and expenses, and being able to verify, especially on a split farm, the application of inputs on the partnered land and the outcome from the partnered land. So monitoring of harvest results through grain cart data or whatever, you know, combine monitoring, whatever is more accurate and available.
Yeah, and going along with that, kind of within the requirement field, Trish was asking, do you need a farm business plan to participate in the program? And then Randy was asking, what characteristics make a good or bad partner for you?
Okay. Sorry, I'm just writing these questions down as we go along.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so for Trish's question on the farm business plan, we do, what we normally do as part of our due diligence is we do get 5 years of history on income and expense data and the crop insurance yield data, so that we have some, I guess, benchmark for what is the net margin per acre, what's the productivity per acre for the farm. We do usually ask for a budget for the coming year as well, especially this year where we're trying to figure out with higher input expenses and not knowing for sure what grain prices are going to be when next harvest comes off. And you know, everybody's a bit gun shy on contracting too much at today's higher prices in case they go the wrong way even further. So a farm business plan is a part of it. Absolutely. If you have one already, we work with what you have. If you don't, we do have a budget format that we share with folks when we're doing our due diligence that helps with that. Randy, characteristics. That's a really good one, and that a lot of ways to answer that. I guess the key thing we look for is somebody that is hardworking, is open and honest, and is a good communicator, is happy to communicate with us and share, you know, where are they having their challenges, what might we be able to do to help them, where are their strengths, why are those areas good for them, and what they're planning to do, you know, how they plan to be successful going forward, how partnering with us will help them. You know, if they've got the equipment to farm 3,500 acres and they're only farming 2,000, then us helping them get up to 3,500 acres probably makes them a lot more efficient. If they're farming 3,500 acres, but most of it's rented, owning can certainly be a key piece of security, especially when they got that option to purchase that land in 10 or 15 years. And in the meantime, if they've had some equity to stick in, that they're be able to benefit from the appreciation on their equity in that farmland. So hopefully I covered those two questions reasonably.
Yes, for sure. And we have another question from Afton asking, do you have any fear that someone else might copy or emulate your business model?
Fear? No, I think that, they usually say that if somebody copies you, that's one of the sincerest forms of flattery. So you're doing things right. So I think it would be actually in many ways welcome, because a little bit of competition is always a good thing. And I think we'd be flattered if other people picked up our model. At the same time, hopefully we're working hard enough and we've got enough of a head start that we figured out how to do it better than anybody that starts it, 6, 8 years later than we did.
For sure. I think imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, right? So if someone's
Yeah.
coming along, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
We have a question from Liz Thomas. I think you kind of touched on it a little bit briefly before. She was asking, is your decision to partner with a farm based purely on financial data? So I know you had said you do look at 5 years of history for income and expenses and the crop insurance for yield data. But is there any other kind of financial data that you guys look at, and anything besides financials?
Uh, we probably spend more time looking at their character than we do at their financials. We certainly do, look at their financials, especially the income and crop insurance, to see how their margin is on their productivity, but we're not financially concerned with some of the same things as a conventional bank might be. We don't necessarily put as much weight on what is their working capital or what is their debt to tangible net worth, because we can fix those by putting in additional equity. At the end of the day, though, we do want to make sure that they are very strong producers on a net margin, because ultimately, long term, that's going to be how they're able to buy us out, by producing more net income per acre or per cow on that land. We don't do a ton in cow calf right now, but we do some in cow calf, and we're looking to expand that area as well. At the end of the day, the net margin per unit of production is what is going to enable a farmer to buy us out. So we do pay a fair bit of attention to that, but it is really that character that we spend a lot of time. Because again, they have to be honest, they have to be hardworking in the end, because again, that's the farmer that's going to be successful, and that's the farmer that's going to be able to buy us out. And they should have good management skills.
Yeah, definitely characteristics. Very important, I think, also in developing kind of a strategic plan, seeing where that farmer wants to go, and that you guys can work together to achieve those goals and help the farmer grow.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons we really enjoyed and appreciate partnering with Farm Management Canada in the Ag Excellence presentation, because long-term management is going to be critical for success. It always has been and always will be.
Yes. We have another question from Jason Peasley. Said, I may have missed this before, but do you work with all commodities? What commodity is your most common?
We work with all commodities. Really, it's up to the producer which commodities are they good at. Most of what we work with, we work obviously with wheat, barley, canola. We also have in Manitoba quite a bit of soybean and a certain amount in southern Alberta, but less so. We have some corn, more so in Ontario and or for forage. We have some clients that are into peas and lentils, faba beans. We don't really restrict the commodity. It really boils down to, what is our farm partner good at growing? What grows well for the soil and moisture conditions in their area? And what do they have good ability to market for an above average margin? Maybe they grow their own malt barley and malt it and brew their own beer. Maybe they grow grass-fed cows that they arrange to slaughter and sell to the consumer direct. What are they doing that they're passionate about, that they're good at, that produces them a better economic margin? So long answer to a short question. Thanks, Jason.
I think too, that kind of leads into a bit of a question, is so seeing that you work a lot with kind of land-based commodities, grain, and you're purchasing land, have you considered partnering with farms to build outbuildings or barns or purchase cattle or
Uh,
other livestock?
yeah. We have considered partnering to purchase livestock. We haven't done a ton of that yet. We have partnered on some infrastructure where needed, whether it be bins or some kind of processing. We haven't done anything on a large scale. It's always been so far kind of an add-on to the land base, but we will look at those opportunities as they arise to see if they make sense. We do not, though I should say, partner on anything that is hugely intensive. We don't partner on any of the supply managed operations right now, or intensive operations like hog or feedlot. Our primary is investing in the land base and then any necessary infrastructure that goes with it that is, relatively minor to the overall land base, or is just a segment of the overall land base. Probably not saying that very well, but.
Right, but still also as kind of a relatively new company, 10 years in, you have to kind of figure out the land first and then maybe eventually work your way over to those other investment opportunities.
You bet. And we certainly are always looking and happy to look at, if you've got a farm, is there something you need to allow you to process some of your own production to market it more effectively? And we're certainly happy to look at proposals for those kind of facilities that are needed to make you successful that way.
Right. We have another question come in from Kai. Do you offer French services? I guess I'm not sure if you do any work in Quebec or if you'd looked at working there. That might be part of the reason for that question.
I know Joelle has had some conversations in Quebec. I don't know if, we have not done anything in Quebec so far, and I'm not totally sure of all of the reasoning there, but I do know Quebec has some different rules and regulations in place. We haven't done anything in Quebec yet, and sorry, Pi, but I personally, sadly, don't speak French. I did try to learn when I was in high school 45 odd years ago, but I'm not very good. About all I can say is parlez-vous français, and we or no would be probably the better answer.
I think my standard comment in high school French was "Je ne comprends pas." I don't understand.
It's a bit ironic. My daughter did her high school, actually middle school and high school, all in French, and the only thing course I could help her with was their math problems.
We've got another question come in from Laura Anderson. Are there other organizations like yours outside of Canada or around the globe? I'm not sure if you guys were based off another organization or if you can speak to that a little bit.
That one, if she would like to send her contact information, I could look at responding to that. I am not aware of anybody like us elsewhere. And when I talked to Joelle, she has never mentioned anybody that she patterned off of. She has largely kind of created this model on her own. She has certainly taken a look at what other companies investing in the farm business have done, but she hasn't taken it from anyone else that I'm aware. But I could certainly check into that. I know we have fielded inquiries from people that have found us on LinkedIn and others where they've asked us about how we operate and what our model is. So.
All right. So yeah, Laura, I just sent you another message there in the chat, but if you want to send a message to Farm Management Canada, we can connect you with Lars if you want to continue that conversation. Another question has come in from Joanne. What has been the most challenging part of your service offerings?
The challenging part, I guess, from our perspective is finding the right partners. There's a certain segment of the farm partners that contact us because there are no other options. And as Joelle said in her comments, and I tell everybody that we talk to, you know, when it comes to this offering, it is not for everybody. And if you can pay cash for the land and other infrastructure that you need, or you can qualify for conventional financing and you're comfortable with your debt load, that's probably the way to go, because you don't have to share any of the future land appreciation with anybody else, and you don't have to work in a partnership. But if you are the right person, our opportunity is far superior. But there are a lot of people that do contact us that are in desperate straits, and probably the toughest part is figuring out which people are in desperate straits because of mismanagement and the inability to operate efficiently, and which folks are actually really exceptional farmers just in a bad circumstance. So for us, it's a challenge of who can we work with and partner with that can be successful going forward and can really make a go of it. Because at the end of the day, when the farmer succeeds, we succeed, and we, you know, fulfill our mandate, which is helping farmers be successful and ultimately acquiring the land long term, while helping our investors participate in what has been a great asset class for the last 30 years, at least since 95, 96.
And I do know that seeing the success of the farmer is very important to you, but what happens if a partnership is not working out?
Partnership isn't working out, I guess it would depend what is causing the partnership not to work out. We'll try and talk to our partner to determine where things are being challenging. Is it something that's controllable? If it's something controllable, is there assistance that we can bring to help them? You know, if they're a good farm producer, but they're having a hard time selling their grain profitably, can we introduce them to someone that can help on the farm marketing side? As an example, we work where our farmers don't have an existing farm marketer. We work quite extensively with FarmLink and a couple of other marketers, and we could introduce them to someone that can help them with marketing. If they are struggling with the agronomics, we do have some agronomists that work with us successfully that we can introduce them to, but we try not to disturb their existing relationship. If their challenge comes that they like too much shiny new iron in the yard, we can work with them to control their impulse buys for that new John Deere X9 or the biggest, shiniest Fendt combine that's out there and such. So we really try to determine solutions that work for both of us and help them be successful in the long run. If they get to the point where they kind of feel that they just can't go on and they can't identify a solution, we do work with them on how do we close out the partnership. Do we buy them out? Do we sell out the whole partnership and they move on to the next stage in their life? What is the solution? Ideally, we try to figure out how can we deal with the areas that are causing them trouble and how can we make them successful going forward.
That's great, Lars. We're getting very close to the end. We have about 4 minutes left. So I'll just take one last question from Neil. And he said, what investment return is Area 1 and its investors looking for on an annual basis?
Thanks, Neil. Generally speaking, depending on the year, we'd like to generate on a operational basis somewhere between 3 and 5%. On a bad year like this year where there's a lot of drought and it may be reliant on crop insurance, the yield might be less. On a bumper year, it'd probably be higher to the 5. So we're trying to average in around 3. Depending on the operation. So that's not that different than what your debt carrying costs would be, which typically these days are somewhere between 2 and 6% in most cases. The bulk of what we're doing is looking to generate some return for our investors from the appreciation in the farmland over the long term. And since about 95, 96, farmland has been a great asset class to invest in. I can speak personally on that. I bought my parents out on some land in 95. It's been pretty good since then, but there certainly has been challenging periods in farmland as well. And our investors know that can happen as well, because there was the about 1984 to about 1995 where farmland appreciation wasn't a pleasant area.
Thanks, Lars. And we just have 2 minutes before our next session starts. So I don't know, Lars, if you have any final remarks you want to leave with the group, or if you kind of sum that up in your presentation. Maybe there's something from this Q&A that you just want to touch base on again quickly.
I guess I would just say, thank you all for the questions. It was very helpful to me to hear what your questions are, and hopefully I answered them clearly. I would encourage you, if you are someone who is trying to expand aggressively and say rents a lot of land or wants to build their cow herd, do talk to us to see if we are a solution that can help you out. At the same time, do explore all your options. Do check with your local bank, whoever you might deal with, or if you deal with FCC, make sure that you use risk management practices like AgriShield that Farm Management Canada participates, and develop your management skills, because in the long run, that's really going to help you be successful. And do talk to us if you're looking at some more inventive potential solutions. By all means, do talk to some of our competitors like Bonnyfield as well, and work to understand the difference in our models. There are some very good ways to expand your farm operation out there, and we are but one of the solutions. I like to think we're a very good solution in the area that we focus on, but we are not for everybody, and we won't be insulted if we're not your ideal solution. But don't give up and walk away from expanding if you have the passion to do it and the skills to do it without looking at us as an option.
Thanks so much, Lars, and Joelle too, for your presentation, just letting us all learn more a little bit about Area 1. I'm sure Lars would be open to continue a conversation if you would like to contact him at any point, but just being conscious of time, our next session is starting, and you can click on getting more out of what matters most. That should pop up on your screen now, and that's about the National Farm Management Leadership Program. Thanks again, Lars.
Thanks, Heather. Take care. Bye, everybody.